Yeah, I mean, even when I got hired at David Weekley, the project manager asked me like, what's my 5 year or 10 year goal or something like that. It sounds very cliche and maybe cheesy to people, but I want to make impacts on people. So um, when somebody offered me a job, I don't take it as like, hey, they offered me a job. They offered me a opportunity to change the outcome of my life and to help my children and help my children's children. That's like how serious I take it. So even when it comes to training somebody, when I was training people at Pulte, like I told them, like, dude, I'm telling you, if you listen to me, you will max out your bonuses, you will make stupid money, and your life's gonna be awesome. And it sounds kind of maybe conceited or arrogant, but I'm just the only reason I do that is because I care about that person being successful.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Seed Mentors podcast. My name is Matt Graves. My co-host each week's Kyle Grandell. What's up this week, Kyle?
Hey, Matt. I'm just finishing up with the holiday weekend. I'm a little tired, I'm not going to lie. It was a good weekend, though. But, just recovering. How about you?
Yeah, about the same. You're back in at least the virtual office this week. You out of the campground or what?
Yeah, well, I'm back in Minnesota. That's where I was. I was up north camping for the weekend. Had a good time. Hung out on the lake for a bit. Had some fires, s'mores, a whole bit. Yeah, it's a good time, man. It's a great Labor Day. How about you?
That's awesome. Yeah, we tried to do a bunch of stuff. It was hot. We finally got a drop of rain yesterday, so that was kind of cool. Other than that, it's been hot.
A whole drop.
So a little storm came through, so it was good. It knocked it down from 105 degrees down to 101 degree, I think. So
nice. Well, hey, as per usual, I got a storm rolling through right now, so it's going to be a good time.
So when you disappear, we know you got wiped out, and then we'll just keep going.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, we will. Anyway, hey, this week's guest is Seth Gehle, and he's he's kind of came up through the military, and he joined the construction industry, and he's got a pretty, I want to say, inspiring story to tell. I saw he kind of gave a story on LinkedIn, and we were connected through, through LinkedIn, and anyway, he was highly referred to be on the podcast. So welcome, Seth.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So for the people who don't know, I guess, your story, your background, or I know you could probably just do an hour monologue on your whole background, but just the short version, tell your background a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. I could talk forever about this, and I have. So, I grew up in Ohio, whatever, I joined the Army when I was 17 in high school. Back then, I don't know if you can still do it, but you could go to basic between your junior and senior year. So I did that, came back, my senior year, finished up high school, went and did some more training, and then I started college the first time up in Columbus, Ohio. And so things weren't kind of going very well. I was kind of making some dumb mistakes and spending all my money and all that. So I ended up going active duty. And when I went active duty, that was about 2015. And then I was joined the infantry. So I was at Fort Stewart, Georgia, then went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I served there until about 2020 is when I left. And then I was officially out in February of 2021. So in total, I think I did 8 years between active and reserves. Active was maybe like 5 or 6 of that. And then when I was getting out of the Army, I actually took a course. There's a lot of resources out there now for veterans, but I took a course for carpentry and electrical that was paid for by the Home Builders Institute, and which was mostly funded through Home Depot and the Home Depot Foundation. So I took that course, and it took some other things. I was kind of really capitalizing on everything that they do for veterans, and doing all that. Kind of LinkedIn popped up, and I know now it's required that you have a LinkedIn account for you to actually get out of the Army. They will not let you out until you have created a LinkedIn account.
Really?
Yeah. So that was kind of coming up when I was getting out because it's such a powerful tool, and so I applied. It's crazy, but anyways, so I started using LinkedIn, and I'm not a social media guru, but I was kind of just trying to do what the experts were telling me to do, and it worked out. There was a VP of construction for Pulte Group, one of the top builders in the country here in Atlanta, had actually reached out and gave me his personal number through a video that he saw that I posted on LinkedIn. So I ended up working with Pulte for a few years. quickly jumped to the top of their leaderboards. There's like maybe 10 or 15 metrics that they measured you on, and then I've been building homes now for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in December. So,
were you intending to go the construction route, or did you just kind of take that course? You just kind of like just found your way down that path, or was it intentional?
A little intentional. My father-in-law is a local GC here in Atlanta. Very successful company. He's been doing it for over 20 years. So I actually was going to work for him initially, but some things just didn't work out as far as salary and benefits and things like that go. So I ended up taking the job with Pulte, but I knew I was going to get into construction, and like I said, I intended on going with him. And then as I kind of like dug into some of these programs that the military offers for free, that you get all these certifications for free, I saw some project management things. And then I stumbled across the HBI, the Home Builders Institute Carpentry and Electrical course. And so when I came across those, in that course, they have guys who come in and interview you and offer jobs and things like that. But it's all like really entry level stuff. And not to sound like uppity or too good for it, but I knew that like my days in the sun were over. Like I was like, I'm much more valuable than swinging a hammer. And if these people don't see it, that's fine. But I know that for myself, and I know that for any veteran who's been serving. I only served, like I said, 8 years. Some of these guys in my class were in for 10, 15, 20 years. And if you don't think that guy knows how to lead a team or something after that much time, it's an insult. And so I kind of took it personally with some of these jobs that were coming in and these offers. And that's kind of what stemmed everything and kind of what went crazy. I wanted to get into project management. I wanted to get into construction. I wanted to be a leader somewhere. And then I also wanted to pave a way for veterans specifically at that moment. So that's kind of what skyrocketed everything. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, I knew I was going to get into construction, but overall project management was like my big thing. I started learning about that, and it was really interesting.
Really interesting. So would you say that Home Depot sponsored course is kind of what ultimately kind of steered you? I mean, there was that opportunity, took advantage of it, and then you were like, "Oh, this is great. Might as well keep going this direction."
Yeah. Yep. That's right. Yeah. The Home Depot thing. And I give them so much credit. They've done so much for me over the last few years. I've done a lot of really cool things with Home Depot. I went to the International Builder Show where I received an award, the Chairman's Award from the Home Builders Institute. I did that in Vegas in January of this year. Last year, they sent me to the Chick-fil-A kickoff for the Georgia-Oregon game, which was a lot of fun. And got to go down on the field and everything. I was like the hometown hero or whatever. That was awesome. And it's all just come from me like advocating for that program. And then I've told them, I messaged every single coordinator that I could find across the United States on LinkedIn. And I said, hey, if you know anybody who needs help, here's my email. And I built like a Word template of saying like, hey, here's the things that you can do for free as a veteran. And then like, here's some like low cost things you can do that will make you, hopefully stand out. So, but that whole like Home Depot HBI course, like just like set it off. That, and there was a few other events that I attended. There was an event I attended that was only just to help veterans out, but they give you a couple suits for free, and then you got a headshot for free. And there was a lady there, Eliza Delgado, who she was the one who told me, she like looked at my LinkedIn profile and said, okay, this looks good. Like this looks really good. And she's like, what's going on? So I kind of gave her a little bit of my story. And then she's like, oh my gosh. She's like, you need to tell this. Like you need to start talking to everybody. And I'm like, I do love to talk, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not a social media guru. But I started doing it. I started posting videos on LinkedIn every day, and it took off. And like all these guys were asking for help, and I was helping guys with resumes. And that's when I got a lot of attention from like the Atlanta VP. But yeah, I did know I was going to get into construction, and those like couple of seminars and kind of things I went to when I was still in the Army are really what set it off.
there's a couple questions there. One, do you still have that Word doc? Is it still up to date? And are you still helping? I guess that was really targeted towards veterans coming out, right?
Yes, I do have it. I need to mess with it. I actually pulled it up last week because I was looking for a few things on the construction. Somebody had asked me about the project management stuff, so I pulled it up a couple weeks ago, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. I need to update it though. I could put a little bit better detail in there. So
that's cool. People just messaging you on LinkedIn still and getting it from you. Is that kind of how that's working?
I haven't gotten as much response lately, and truthfully, when I got employed at Pulte, like what I started doing once I got employed is I was reaching out directly to people. I would connect, and what I would do is like literally search like transitioning service member or something like that, because that's a common title that guys will put in, and then I would reach out to them directly, and I got a lot of guys hired, probably somewhere around 15 or so across the United States. And I mean, just here in Georgia, I probably recruited nearly 10 guys at Pulte. Not all of them were veterans, but most of them were. So that was really cool. But when I got employed, I guess I was nervous about kind of saying the wrong thing while representing a company.
Right.
So I kind of stopped making videos. I made a couple here and there, but like I said, I just didn't want to. Some of the big companies get kind of weird with the social media thing, so I just didn't want to do anything wrong. So.
Gotcha. What kind of videos were you posting? Was it mostly stuff just helping those transitioning veterans coming out?
Yep. Yeah, I was talking about like how to make your resume stand out, how to explain your resume, how to explain your military service, how to get your P&P in 3 weeks, like 4 weeks, whatever I did, things like that. I mean, just all kinds of different things, how to interview. I think that one of the things that veterans have more than most people is like critical thinking skills. And I think critical thinking is hard to like quantify, but a lot of veterans sometimes get a bad rap coming in because we have this like robot mentality sometimes, or maybe it seems like that. So I try to explain to guys like, man, you're a critical thinker. And if you can get that point across to somebody, that's a huge deal, where you don't have to hold this guy's hand every day. He's going to go out and get things done, and he's going to figure it out, So it was a lot of career things like that, and just how to market yourself, brand yourself.
That's so cool, man. So the story that go ahead.
Sorry, we have a little bit of a lag here, I think. So Seth, that's some really good advice there about branding and kind of jumping off the page, showing the critical thinking skills. What other things have you been able to help with advice-wise that have been successful for getting transitioning veterans, placements and stuff like that?
Yeah, a lot of it was just being relentless. Like, it sounds very cliche, but guys would reach out to me and ask me like, dude, how did you do this? And I would tell them, man, like, I'm not kidding you. For about 3 or 4 months, because when you're getting out, it's kind of scary. And for 3 or 4 months, I literally was on LinkedIn every single night, and I would just type in Atlanta construction and like filter it. Every single person who had anything to do with construction, I would just connect. And then I messaged every single one of them, and I said, hey, like, here's who I am. And I kind of started to tailor the message a little bit as I would get responses or not, wouldn't get any responses. But I probably messaged 300 or 400 people over the course of like 3 months. Like, I mean, every single night, man, it was just like, and I typed every message out. It wasn't a copy and a paste. And so that is just my relentless like nature of like, I have to get my name out here. The number one way to get anywhere is through connections. You can apply, and I applied like 3 times to places, and I was like, all right, I'm done. Like, this whole application process takes forever. The resume updating takes forever. I'm going to reach out until I get an internal connection. And once I get somebody who wants to talk to me, then I'll use them to get in somewhere. And that's what I did. So that's what I tell guys. That was like a lot of my stories. And it, I don't know if it sounds false or make believe or like I'm kind of like hiding something, but that's really what I was doing, and was just relentlessly getting my name out there. I started talking about making videos. If an employer looks at my LinkedIn page, there's videos of me talking, so they can actually see how I talk, how I act, what my voice sounds like, and kind of how I carry myself, which probably doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you're going to hire somebody and you pull up that's one thing they do. They always check your social media. They always check your Facebook, your Instagram, things like that. And so if you're going to put things on there, it better be good. And so I would put these videos of me talking, and these guys, and I know people look at him and they're probably like, okay, he sounds educated and he sounds like he can put a sentence together. So that was a lot of just that, like, building your brand was really big, and it still is on LinkedIn. And that's kind of what I was trying to do. It's funny, I go back and look at my old videos. I went back and looked at one of them, and I was like, man, I sounded like a little like crazy person, in some of those videos, where I was like, yeah, I probably could have, but it's fine. I mean, I was new to it, so I was kind of still learning.
Yep.
So yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to do for everybody. I just try to pave a path, man. Like I did something great, and all I'm trying to do is just get other people on that same path.
Definitely. So when you're doing those videos and you're showing your leadership skills too, right? You're showing the world that you're out there trying to help, other people and stuff. So I think I'm surprised it took you 300 messages all the time to get responses. You know what I mean? Because what I've seen in the construction industry since I've kind of been doing all this stuff is there's a lot of eager people out there eager to help the construction industry. They're just waiting for somebody to kind of reach out to them. So it kind of surprises me that it took you that much hustling to get your name out there. But that's awesome though. Well done on not giving up.
Yeah. Yeah, I just went and spoke at this nonprofit event a couple weeks ago, and one of the students, after I gave my whole speech, she had told me, I've kind of gone to job sites, because part of my advice was, like, if I was in your shoes right now and I just for some reason could not get in anywhere, I would drive up to a neighborhood and I just start walking around like, hey man, who do I need to talk to? Who needs to see my resume? Can I ride with somebody if somebody walked in my neighborhood and said, can I ride with you for a day and see what you do? I'd be like, dude, get in. Like, it just takes, everybody can sit behind the keyboard and application, but it takes some serious, courage to put on some nice clothes and show up at the front door. Like, I want in,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was kind of telling this. And the student had told me that, she felt like she was being turned down because she was a female or this or that. And I said, well, frankly, it doesn't matter why you were turned down. You were turned down. So you can sit here and kind of debate why you were turned down, or you can just go and do something about it. And I wasn't trying to be rude, but it's just, that's it. So I said, you have to keep knocking. Like, it's just like a door-to-door sales job. You're going to get told 100 times no. Yeah. All it takes is one yes. And that's all it took for me. So
I don't know the best way to lead in the next part, but definitely, I mean, you were telling me the last time we talked that, kind of you had like sort of a rough upbringing and kind of, you kind of made some mistakes along the way and all that sort of stuff. But construction has definitely been a thing. The construction industry has really sort of given you a life that you maybe didn't expect, or just maybe more than you ever thought was impossible or something like that. So I don't really know the best way to go into this next part, but do you want to expand a little bit more kind of on your story, or what really, that one lady that said, man, you got to get out there and tell everybody your story, tell everybody how sort of great the industry is and all these sort of things.
Yeah. So, I think I might have told that lady I was in the process of either writing a book or I was going to start writing a book. And that's when she was like, well, kind of tell me more. And I kind of elaborated a little bit. I don't really recall the entire conversation, but I am in the process of writing a book now, and I don't know how far I am. I don't know, maybe 15,000 words or something like that. But
that's awesome.
It's a pretty typical like rags to riches kind of story. And I actually went and saw Eric Thomas. He's a motivational speaker. He's like #1 in the world. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen him, look him up. He's awesome. But I went and saw him in Atlanta a couple weeks ago for free. And one of the things he talked about was nobody's going to respect you until you get some giants on your resume. And he talks about David and Goliath, and he kind of spun the story in a way that this damn fly, dude. He kind of spun the story in a way that I've never heard of before. But anyways, he talks about getting giants on your resume, and you're going to have to accomplish some things before somebody's going to respect you, or even like your story. So, for example, if you got up and you gave a speech and you said, hey, my parents both made millions of dollars, and that's how I got successful today. Like, nobody's going to it's like, dude, like, all right, man, get off. Like, we don't care to hear that.
Right.
That's great for you, but it doesn't help anybody. And so I knew as a young kid, I was just talking to somebody else about this the other day. I knew as a young kid, maybe when I was probably 10 or 11 or 12, that I wanted to get up and talk to people one day because of everything I had been through in my first 12 years of life was more than most people could even fathom. Like, it's hard to imagine like what I went through as a young kid. And it almost sounds like made up. Like, it almost sounds like I'm one-upping somebody just because it's pretty intense and it's pretty crazy. So when I told this lady that's when she was like, this is awesome. Like, you've got a crazy story to tell. And based on what you're doing now, like, you are going to be successful. And so, yeah, I grew up in Ohio with a single mother. She was raising 3 kids. She had us at 17, 18, 19, I think, or 16, 17, 18, one of those two. Had us all back-to-back years. She did pretty well. I'd say my mom did pretty well for the first probably 6, 7 years or so, as best as she could with 3 kids. But I remember being in kindergarten and coming home, and my father was never in my life. But, I remember being in kindergarten, coming home with my sisters, and we'd get the house ready. We'd do our chores. We would cook our food and everything. I mean, I was in kindergarten and we were taking care of ourselves at a young age because she was at work all day, so she could be with us at night. And so we grew up pretty fast, taking care of ourselves, and that's pretty like outlandish today. Like, it's pretty crazy to think about a kindergartner being at home by themselves or whatever.
I got kindergartners. I couldn't imagine.
I'm saying my daughter's 5. I mean, I couldn't, like, it's funny. I tell my wife, I'm like, she could do these things. Like, just so you know, she could. I did it. And I don't want her to do it. I don't want to put her in that situation, but kids are resilient. So
They are.
But yeah, so like my first experience ever, like, I have pictures of me and my dad when I was maybe like 1 or 2. But my first memory of my father is going to meet him in jail. And it's actually like, this kind of put this in my book, is that, I remember being excited. I was probably 7 or 8 maybe. And I remember being excited to like go see my dad. And it was at like a jail, and I saw him. I can see it today. Like, you're in these like little cubicles and he comes in, there's this plexiglass and, he sits down and I broke down in tears because it was an emotional time. So I broke down and I barely got to talk to him just because I couldn't stop crying. And then he went away. And then, I saw him occasionally throughout the rest of my life. I'm 29, just turned 29. I've probably seen him, I don't know, 30, 40 times. So to kind of put some things in perspective, it's tough growing up with a single mother. It's tough growing up without a father. But then my mom got into some, she got into drugs, and then there was abuse, and just it was a violent place. We were young kids and we were getting bounced around from house to house. She couldn't take care of us, so we'd live with like kind of random people or friends, and we're kind of bouncing around. And then when I was 12, that's when everything kind of finally fell into place. And for lack of a better term, she got arrested, and I remember being 12 years old and seeing her like through the window of the police car, and she's getting pulled away, and me and my 2 sisters are at the house like crying, and my sisters kind of went, I don't even know what happened. They went one way and I went another. And over the course of like 4 to 6 months, I was kind of like living with random people. I was 12 years old. I was waking up, going to school, getting my homework done, finding a way to eat. There was people kind of taking care of me. And then around Christmas, my mom actually called me and told me she was going to come and get me. And I was living with a couple of friends that I knew. And at 12 years old, once again, I had to tell my mom, probably one of the hardest days of my life was telling her, I don't want to live with you anymore. And that was, dude, that was like crazy. So she yelled at me on the phone, like, I want to come and get you, this and that. And I said, no, I don't want to live with you. So I asked this family to adopt me. And so they were going to do it. And then somehow my grandparents caught wind of that. And they came and picked me up. And they said, look, if anybody's going to be able to adopt you, it's going to be us. And I was okay with that. My grandparents, they weren't rich, but they had 2 cars and they had a house and they had snacks. And so to me, I was like, man,
you made it.
Yeah, dude. Like, I remember when one of the first few nights I was living with my grandparents, I'd asked if I could eat some food, and my grandma looked at me like Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, you know, what do you want? But that's what I grew up with, was we couldn't just eat whenever because we didn't have anything. So if you ate, you wouldn't eat tomorrow, you know, that kind of thing. So it's crazy, man. But so that was like my whole like rags to riches kind of situation. I moved in with my grandparents, and at 12 years old, I even treated them bad because to me, like I was an adult. Like there was nothing you could tell me. I was a young little, I was just mean, and I had a chip on my shoulder. And so it took them a while to kind of square me away. And I was going through some things over the course of living with them. You know, but I always knew, like, even as a young kid, like I always seen all the drugs around, and like, you know, it's kind of crazy too. Like my mom would smoke, they would smoke in the living room, and my sisters who were 10 and 11 would be in a living room with adults, like passing a blunt, like around the living room. And so like, to me, I was like, nah, man, like this, I don't know what it was, man. When I was young though, I just knew I would go do something else in my life. And so, you know, joined the Army, and that was kind of my first experience kind of going out and kind of doing my thing. And then, you know, my grandparents moved to Florida. I was in Ohio in college, and then I knew I needed to go active duty, so I did that. And then I met my wife and had my daughter, and probably about 6 months before my daughter was born, I think she's 5 now, so that was about 23 years old. That's really when like things just clicked. My daughter was about 6 months away, and I just completely started reading books, started teaching myself about money, and just turned my entire life around. So, and then to follow up on all that, like, you know, I got out of the Army, got into construction. Never, as a kid, never thought I'd be in construction. I thought I'd be a Ohio State running back, but it didn't happen. So I got into construction, and the typical like construction mentality is that, you know, you're going to work all day in the sun, swinging a hammer, and make $1 a day, you know. And I've always told everybody, I'm like, dude, this job is awesome. Everything I do is awesome, man. The money is crazy. The potential is crazy. You know, and like just the connections that you make with people. If you're a good construction manager, you have good trade partners, and those good trade partners will take care of you. They'll make your life easy, blah, blah, blah. And so it's been the last 3 years, I was just thinking about this again the other day. It was like, it's been surreal of all the things I've done through construction. It's just been crazy, man. It's been a crazy journey. Just these last 3 years has been crazy. But to combine it with everything prior, it's like, you know, I don't know, man. I don't even can't even put words to it, you know. So when I went to Vegas, and sometimes I look at my wife, and I'm like, man, I don't know how the hell I got here. And we went to the Georgia-Oregon game, and we're down there on the field after halftime. I'm like looking around, like, dude, like, I know as a kid, man, I always wanted to go to like these big games, and it's been really rewarding, man. It's been a crazy journey.
Wow,
so cool, man.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully I can continue to spread the word and inspire people.
Well, it definitely is an inspirational story, and I mean, obviously from that, I mean, that must be where your passion comes from, and why you're so persistent and relentless, as you said, and you know, trying to make the difference, get the word out there, get everybody in, so they can enjoy the way you've enjoyed it too. That's fantastic.
Yep.
So, I mean, it seems like a lot of it came from really you hustling. I mean, whether you're spending all night sending LinkedIn messages, or, you know, you built it. I mean, the industry, and that's what I try to tell people is like the industry, like there's no ceiling, right? You can go as high as you want to go, but no one's just going to straight give it to you either, right? You definitely got to put in the effort. You got to put in the work. You got to hustle. You got to work your ass off. You got to give a damn. It's like, you know, I've seen that much times. Like the guys that give the damn and are really trying and really putting in the effort, those guys go a long ways. For girls or guys, whatever you want to say. I mean, the sky's the limit on their availability or their ceiling. You said something a minute ago. You said like you got your PMP in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I couldn't get my PMP, but I was PMP test ready in about 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, when I so there's a course through Syracuse University, I believe, is who like runs it. But there's a course. It's Onward Opportunity. It's for veterans. You can take it anytime if you're within 6 months of getting out, or anytime after. But you can only take the course one time, and your spouse can also take it. It's probably the best program the Army offers. But there's like PMP, CAPM, all kinds of Lean Six stuff, a ton of IT certifications. And so that's what a lot of people use it for, is either project management or IT, so something along those lines. It's probably the best program because even if you just take one, you have unlimited access to their entire library for like 2 years. And it's all free, except you only get one test covered. So like if I took my PMP, but I could go and do all these other ones and get all these other, get all the curriculum done, and I would just have to pay for the test. So, but yeah, it's funny. I was on a call, and this is just like very typical of me. Somebody said I couldn't, they're like, hey, it takes 6 months to a year or something like that, or 4 to 6 months to do it, and then you get another 6 months to test out. They told me the curriculum takes like 4 to 6 months, and then you get 6 more months to test out, I think is what it is. And so I'm like, dude, I ain't got 4 to 6 months, man. I got I give you about 3 weeks, and I'll be ready to go. And I asked her on the call in front of like 20 other students on the call, and I said, if I'm ready in 3 weeks and I take this in 3 weeks, like 3 or 4 weeks, or are you guys like not going to let me take it? And I wasn't trying to be like cocky or arrogant, but in the past with college and high school and all that, I always had a reputation for being the first one done. And my teachers would always kind of kick me back and say, nope, you got 10 more minutes or another hour or 2 more hours before you're allowed to turn it in. And I was done. So I would just sit there and stare at them like, I'm not touching this test. I'm done. And so that's just how I am. So anyways, I asked them, and then she said, no, she's like, yeah, if you think you're going to be ready. And they kind of laughed about it. I was like, okay. So then, I started doing the coursework, and the way that the course is structured, it just wasn't for me. So I kind of skipped all the coursework, and I went to the tests, and I did all of the tests. There's like 30 of them that you have to take. I did them all open book style until I could pass them all without a problem. And that took me about 2 or 3 days. And then I actually built this whole like template out on how to do this. And then I started taking the practice tests. I found 2 or 3 of them. I found the most realistic one, and I started sharing that with everybody, and I started taking that test repeatedly. And then once I was done with everything, you take a class to do the application. And when I did the application part, I found out that I was probably 3 to 6 months shy on experience, and I was already like fluffing my experience was. So like to push like 3 more months or 6 more months and then get audited, like I just didn't want to get kicked back, and so anyways, I got the CAPM instead, unfortunately, which is actually harder in my opinion because it's more technical versus the PMP is very hypothetical. So like if you can kind of just understand what they're asking and what the key words are in the question, you can get the questions right. Because I think we talked about this, like really you have to do every step. Like they ask a question, there's 4 answers, like all 4 answers are right, but which one is most right?
That's the most right answer.
Like, exactly. Yeah. So that's how the PMP is. But
they'll give you an example and they'll say, what do you do first? You look at them all, it's like, I can do all 4 of these. It doesn't matter which one I do first. Just I got to get them all done. But
yeah,
exactly. Do one first.
Yeah. Yeah. So that the PMP once, like I said, once you got the test down, it was pretty easy. But I had to go do the CAPM instead, which is fine. I will graduate college in 21 days, and then I will go and chase my PMP after that.
You gonna study? You're all study. You already did your 3 weeks.
Yeah. I'll probably do the practice test a few times and see where I'm at, and then go for it. So.
That's awesome. Where you going? You wearing a Georgia shirt? Is that where you're going to school?
No, I got this shirt because of the Georgia-Oregon game.
Oh, okay.
When Home Depot. I wanted to wear my Buckeye jersey down there, but they're like, no, you need to either wear Georgia or neutral. So I got this instead. But no, I'm getting my degree on an online school down in Florida, Everglades University.
You like construction management or something?
Yep. I'll have my bachelor's of science in construction management.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Is it like 100% online type thing, like self-paced, or?
Yeah. Well, it's you do 1 class a month,
Okay.
and then you just do it all year. So it turns out to basically be the same. You can do it in 4 years, just like a typical college, because you don't take summers off.
Mhm.
You get a couple weeks in the winter and like 2 weeks of spring break or something like that.
Yep.
But it's very easy. So
That's awesome, man.
Well, first of all, I just got to say, go Big Ten.
yeah.
And then second of all, what would you say are some of the things that have been really, really good for you as far as, what's led to your success, and especially in construction?
Yeah, man. The number one most important thing is probably just being an excellent communicator, so there's two things I would say. One is being a great communicator, and then two, which I'm learning recently and trying to implement daily, is not forcing other people to run your race. And so I'll talk about the communication part first. I'm the kind of person that if you text me or email me, I will probably respond before you put your phone down. And as when I was new in the home building industry, it's like construction is very much customer service. Like I'm not the smartest guy. I've never built anything, and my title's a builder. I've never built anything in my life. I built a couple end tables, and I messed that up. So, I'm not this like construction trade skill guy. Like I'm not super savvy with tools or nothing like that, but I know how to get people to do what I need them to do. And whether it's a trade partner or a customer or my coworkers or my boss or anybody else. So, when I started at Pulte, being an excellent communicator, and that comes from the Army of like acknowledging things. So, and that's one thing in the civilian world I still cannot grasp, is that when somebody sends a text to you or a message or an email, it doesn't get acknowledged. It's just like, so I'm like, I'll send out a text and I'm like, hey, like acknowledge, so, and every time somebody texts me, I'm okay, got it, or acknowledged, or something received, because it's just, that's a good communication practice. And that's what the Army does. Because if you don't, they're going to show up at your front door like, hey man, you're alive, so anyways, being a great communicator. But even when I talk to my customers could email me and I would just respond right away. If I didn't have the answer, I would tell them, hey, I received your email. I'll work on this today or tomorrow, and I'd get back to them. Same thing internally. If anybody messages you internally, it's probably something serious and it needs addressed immediately. So I know I got a lot of respect for constantly communicating, and just being a great communicator. I actually ended up, they picked me to teach the effective communication course to the entire division at Pulte Group here in Georgia, because of that. So, we always got surveyed on every home. I had perfect surveys through like 40 some surveys, which is kind of unheard of. And and all of them.
Is that by the owner, the homeowner?
That's correct. Yep. Yeah. A couple days after closing, the customer would fill out a survey, and there's a bunch of metrics on there. But I always there's 15 questions, and on 43 straight surveys, I got 10 out of 10 on everything.
Awesome.
Which like nobody did that. Nobody got close to it. And so, I told people I was going to do it, and then I did it. And not to be arrogant or cocky or nothing, but it's just like I did it, and then I put the manual out there. Like people asked me, even the VP asked me, how are you doing this? And I think it got to the point, I can't validate this, but I do believe that there was probably some people questioning my ethics behind like the surveys. Like, was I paying for these or something?
There's $100. Give me all tens.
Yeah, dude. But I did everything I could to communicate with my customers and even my trade partners. When I left Pulte, I thought I was a problem for a minute. But a lot of my trade partners actually reached out to me and they're like, man, like, you were doing really well. So the communication part is definitely the most important part. Running your own race, something maybe not a lot of people can relate to, but when I say I'm like relentless, I cannot understand why you would not want to be the best at anything you do. And so with that comes, we'll be in a meeting and somebody will say, Seth, when are you going to close this house? And I'll say September. And somebody else, hey, when are you going to close this house? And they'll say October. And their house is 3 weeks ahead of mine. And they'll say, well, wait a minute. Like, why is his closing in September and yours is in October? If, you're ahead of the schedule, blah, blah, blah. And, So I would try to tell people like, hey, man, you can do this to kind of speed things up, or, you shouldn't be giving them this much time, or this is how I do things really, really fast, or even just earning surveys, making customers happy, just being an all around relentless person. When somebody is not doing that, for me, I took it like personally, like the old Michael Jordan or the documentary,
Yeah.
where he's trying to win championships, and for somebody to show up and not want to do it with him, it's like, dude, like what do you mean? Like, why do you not want to be the best? And some people just aren't wired like that. And so, as hopefully a future leader in the construction industry, I've got to understand that as well. That some people, they're okay with being a construction manager or a builder for their entire career. Other people like myself, I want to move up and I want to lead generations and people and make impacts. So that those two things, because if you don't, there's a book by Tim Grover. It's called Relentless, and he talks about Michael Jordan's mentality and Kobe Bryant's mentality. And one of the things that they got a lot of, I guess, hate from was they were so driven, and they had like this dark side. And Tim Grover says everybody has a dark side. You just have to find out where it's at and how to use it. But the bad thing is that you can get not learning how to turn it off. And so that's my problem, is that sometimes I have a problem turning it off, where somebody's not doing something that, it's like, man, I've told you what to do, told you how to do it. So learning how to be a leader is very important. Learning how to, everybody's running their own speed, and you're going to have A builders and you're going to have B builders and C guys, and you can't force the C guys to do what the A guys are doing. It's just not going to work. They're going to quit. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned, and I am implementing that in my life now, personally and professionally.
Yeah, wow, really, really good stuff there. Run your own race. That's awesome. I don't know that I've heard that one put that way before, but I couldn't agree more, man. That's great. You got some really good insight there. Working with a team and leading a team, it's different. It's challenging. Everybody is different, and
Right.
even if in the same way to do something, they might find a different way to do it. And it's sometimes you're like, well, it's not the way I would do it, but hey, it gets the job done, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah. It's tricky. Especially when the proof is in the pudding. It's like, look, guys, like, this works. I've done this 40 times in a row. Like, it works, So, but yeah, you're right. You just gotta let people. If you force it on people, they get resentment, or they just don't want to do it. So
I like that. I mean, that's something I think anybody who's, aspiring to be a leader or is a leader, that's something they struggle with, because you always come up sort of through the ranks doing it your way, right? And you got to where you are by doing it your way, or, you doing it. So then you're wanting to help other people get to where you are. And it's like the same thing. It's like, this is how you do it. And they go do something differently. They got to put their own flavor on it. And it's like, it can be frustrating, right? But like, they may or may not get the same results you got, but sometimes they need to do it their own way and learn from their own mistakes. And as a leader, you can't necessarily like rub their nose in it, like, no, you're doing it wrong. Do it this way. It can be hard. It can be hard at times.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about that is I was just talking to my project manager about this a couple weeks ago, because I was having this thing in my head, and much like Michael Jordan did, and they would, like, if there was any sense of doubt on your performance, it's like, okay, I'm going to show you why you don't doubt me. And I'm not like a professional athlete. I'm not on Michael Jordan's level, but it's very similar in that thinking. But when I joined Pulte, I asked the VP construction, I said, what do I need to do to be successful? And he said, well, I don't know. He said, you need to message the top 3 guys on the leaderboard and ask them. Because they're in that job currently. And so I said, okay. And I'm the kind of person, like, I'm telling you, if you two told me to do something, it's like, hey, man, if you do this is going to work for you, I would go and do it, like, right now. And so he told me that my first day on the job, man, the leaderboard popped out that Friday, and I messaged the top 3 guys. I emailed them and I said, hey, man, what are your practices, blah, blah, blah. And the one guy, actually all 3 of them responded back, and they all, gave me some great pointers. And so I did it. I did exactly what they told me to do, and I was successful. And so when I tell other people to do something, I was just talking to my project manager about this. I trained about 4 or 5 guys at Pulte, and 3 of them at the same time were in the top like 50 on the national leaderboard, which is really hard to do. There's over 1,000 construction managers for Pulte nationwide, and 4 of us were in the top 50. 3 of those guys were guys that I trained, and they were doing exactly what I told them to do. And we worked as a team as well. We worked relentlessly as a team. Anytime anybody needed anything, we worked together. But so that's part of my problem, is that sometimes when I tell somebody to do something, or I'm trying to coach them through something, they'll ask me for advice and I tell them and they don't do it. And my project manager asked me, he's like, well, what would you do if I told you to do something? And I'm like, I'm not kidding you. I would do it. Like, if you told me this is what I had to do, I would do it. Like, I think it's good to have blind faith in people, the right people. And
people you can trust.
Yeah. That's one thing that a lot of people don't do. And that's one thing I learned in the military, is that, hey man, I need you to go behind, I need you to, go to this wall. I need you to move to this tree. It's not like, why do I need to move the tree? It's just move. And when we're done with this exercise, then we can talk about why we made this decision. Was it right or wrong? But at the time, I need you to have some blind faith in me and just execute. Just do what I'm telling you to do. When we're done, I promise you I'll explain it to you. So that was one thing that's hard for me to understand, is that when somebody asks me for help and I tell them they don't follow through,
do you think you got that mindset from the military, or do you think you had that just built in naturally?
The Army definitely put that in my head, because when everybody joins the Army and they want to fix the machine, but it's a machine. And wheels turn, and they've been turning for a long time. And so if you try to jump in there and fix it, you're not going to fix nothing. You're just going to get ran up in the machine. So one thing I had to learn was my old platoon sergeant, Sergeant McVeigh. I could thank that guy for this, but he told me about blind faith and just don't try and fix the machine. Just listen. It's implemented for a reason.
I think I got you off what you're saying, but I love
that. No, that's just right on path, man.
So, I mean, obviously you have higher aspirations than a construction manager, right? Where you want to go with your career. So if you're looking into your crystal ball and, you're thinking like, what do I have to do next to get the next step and the next step and the next step? Like, what's your roadmap look like?
Man, that's a good one. I know I'm getting my degree. So that's going to obviously make an impact. And then the P&P, that's good too. But I guess I just need the experience. I have to just stay consistent and keep performing and keep staying at the top. Once you get to the top, getting to the top is pretty easy, but staying up there is tough, and being consistent. But then also, more importantly, just making impacts on people. The more people that I impact, it'll come back around for me. So a position will open up, something will open up, and I'll take a promotion or I'll move up within the company, or something along those lines. I've told the people that I work with, I've told my project managers, like, hey, I'm getting my degree. What do I need to do next? And their answers were just keep working your ass off, and the opportunities will come. And so that's part of the construction thing that a lot of people get hung up on, is like, it does take time to move up, but it's just stay the course, man. You're good. Just keep trucking. So, but yeah, I mean, even when I got hired at David Weekley, the project manager asked me, like, what's my 5-year or 10-year goal or something like that. It sounds very cliche and maybe cheesy to people, but I want to make impacts on people. So when somebody offered me a job, I don't take it as like, hey, they offered me a job. They offered me a opportunity to change the outcome of my life and to help my children and help my children's children. That's like how serious I take it. So even when it comes to training somebody, when I was training people at Pulte, like I told them, like, dude, I'm telling you, if you listen to me, you will max out your bonuses, you will make stupid money, and your life's gonna be awesome. And it sounds kind of maybe conceited or arrogant, but the only reason I do that is because I care about that person being successful. I don't get anything if he performs well. Like, I don't get anything out of it. I don't make the money off of him. So if he performs well, that's good for him. And that's what I want to see. I want to see people who are like, oh my, because I know what it feels like to be given that opportunity and be like, man, I listen to this guy and I'm on top of the world right now. And so I want other people to experience that feeling. And, the higher you are in a company, the more opportunities you have to impact people. And that's how I look at it. Really don't care too much about the money. There's some numbers out there. There's some studies out there that say once you make X amount of money, your quality of life doesn't improve. It actually gets worse at some point, whatever. So I personally, I don't really care about the money. I just want to make impacts on people. And I want those impacts to, if I can change one person, he can change another. And it just keeps going down the road, so.
It's kind of the Jesse Hernandez and Jesse and Jen, they always talk about ripples of impact.
Yeah.
It's just kind of that, you make one impact and it just kind of keeps going and going and going and going. And, that's kind of that's why I think, I really vibe with what you're saying, is because that's kind of what we started this whole thing was just trying to help people, right? Just trying to help spread some words, spread some messages, try to get, some knowledge out there, help kind of that next generation coming up. And obviously you started doing all that too, when you first started on LinkedIn and making all those videos and just trying to help, the next service member coming out, just here, this is what I did, you do that, and you'll be successful too. So
yeah,
that's so awesome, man.
Yeah, I think it's exhausting and it's hard. And I think maybe back to Kyle's kind of thing, I talked about communication and then running your own race, but then also at some point you're gonna, like, if you really want to be successful and you really want to take over, like, you're gonna have to like knuckle down and grind. And it's just like, that is at the end of the day, man, you are going to have to work. It is not going to be easy. And there's a speech that like Eric Thomas gives, man, and it fires me up. And it's just about, you want to outwork me, and there's 1,000 other people that want what you want. So what are you going to do to beat them? There's only one thing you can do, and that's outwork them. Mm-hmm. Man, I'll tell you real quick. When I was at Pulte, I was a construction manager rookie of the year at the end of the first year, and I had the best numbers out of everybody. There was nobody who competed with me. There was one guy who was close, but he was about 3-4 surveys short of me. And he got the construction manager of the year award. I got the rookie award. So when you look at my jacket, it says rookie of the year, not construction manager of the year. So you would assume that, he was the best rookie, not the best construction manager of the year. And so to me, I took it personally, and I was like, dude, what did he do that was better than me? And I didn't, he didn't get anything for the award other than a North Face jacket. But I asked him, what did he do? And they said, well, he didn't really do anything better than you, but if there's one thing, he dressed better than you. So that weekend, I went to the mall and I bought like $500 in polos, and I was like, all right. I was like, well, here we go. So you're just going to have to work hard. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, what credentials you have, you're going to have to work your ass off no matter where you go if you want to be that successful. So that's the tough part.
Well, that's a really interesting point there too, Seth, is that there's a lot of things, especially as you climb the ranks and as you're kind of dealing from that higher level, there's a lot of expectations, and a lot of those little details can matter. Like somebody that's going to do business with you, if you're wearing the polo versus just wearing a t-shirt like I'm wearing, they might look at you a little differently, and they might not take you as seriously, or they might not see you as credible. So there's a lot of good wisdom there too. Dude,
oh my goodness, man, yes. So like I'm very particular about my hair, and that's probably the Army doing that. My hair has to be clean. If I have my attempt at a beard is like this like Amish thing. I keep it clean. But yeah, when I first started, I was like, oh yeah, man, my shirt's dirty, my pants are dirty, my boots are dirty. I'm getting after it. Yeah. VP Construction was like, dude, he's like, I don't pay you to work. I pay you to get other people to work and get jobs done. If you're doing the work, like, we're wasting money somewhere. And so, and when I met that, and like now, like I'll show up to work in polos and like button downs and dress clothes, and I look really nice. And the customers, well, they assume I'm a salesperson. And I'm like, no, I'm on the construction side. And then, so it's always like a really welcoming thing to see somebody who really cares about their appearance. And then even the trade, there's no question when I get out of my car who's in charge. And that was one thing that really struck a nerve with me, is that there's just no question. So any event we do, I always dress. You only get one time to make a first impression. And so we had an event where the CEO was out there. I'm not going to show up in a dirty polo and some jeans when the CEO of the company is going to be there. Like, if I want to make a good impression. So he probably didn't think twice about it. I don't know if he did or not. And it's fine if he didn't, but it's just that principle of life, like always put your best foot forward kind of thing. So.
Maybe we start getting a haircut before our podcast appearance. wear a hard hat, then I take my hard hat off and I got a bucket head, so I got to throw my hat
Right,
on. So,
right.
so I
Yeah.
look presentable. I'll be in our trailer bathroom over here fixing my hair up before the next one watch me.
I know. I felt bad doing it. I got these like dog treats behind me, and I was hoping my dog wouldn't. She's in her kennel right now, so I was hoping she wouldn't make any crazy noise near. But she's been good.
Man, you dropped a ton of like little insights, especially for like, people coming out of the military transitioning over, or the next generation coming up. Is there any other gold nuggets of wisdom you got that you haven't already given that you'd like to give to the next generation?
When you get where you're going, pay it forward. That's one thing I always tell everybody, and that's what I've tried to do. I make enough money now to where, and I don't say this in a bad way, but I give away so much, man. And like the little things in life that you do for people, somebody will take it somebody will take it and they'll remember those moments forever. So my teachers, when I was a kid, for some reason they invested something in me and they gave me a chance, and they didn't just kick me out of class for being a turd or whatever. Like I was a mean little kid, and people have taken so many chances for me that I always do it for others. And always pay it forward, man. Like that's one thing we've had we'll have like drives at work to raise money for things. And, we were $1,200 short on a thing. And I was like, all right, here's $1,200. Like, let's hit our goal. And, nobody knew about it. And that wasn't my intent for anybody to know. But, people, when you get where you're going, man, you got to pay it forward, man. You can't. I think it's just a powerful thing to say, like, I have all this money or all these nice things, and then you just go and give things away to people, whether it's clothes or money or advice or time.
Mm-hmm.
Just pay it forward, man, because somebody helped you get where you got. And I know what it's like to be really lost. And, so the way I grew up, so if I can reach out and just drop those little like drops of like hope in somebody's lap, hopefully they grow up and they'll think about me the way that I think about the people. Like even now I've had this time with you guys, and 5-10 years from now, like I will always remember the time that somebody gave me an opportunity to speak and kind of tell my story. And that's what I talk about with when I was offered a job. I wasn't just offered a job. Like when Pulte extended me the offer, and I told the VP of construction this, and it, like I said, as a man, it probably sounds a little weird, but I sat out in my car and I was like emotional, man. I was calling my wife and I was like crying in the car because I was like, man, I made it. Like I finally made it. I finally did it. And I was part of a Fortune 500 company, which I don't know. I thought that was cool. So I was like, man, I made it, and it was a big deal, man. And I always try to let people know that. So I'd say pay it forward and then go back and let the people know that they made a big impact on you. Because people don't get the roses until it's too late. So
it's true, man.
Wow.
I appreciate you coming on, Seth, man. I thought Kyle was gonna say something.
No.
Speechless.
No. It's just so awesome. There's been so much good stuff. I mean, your story's been amazing, and the wisdom. I hope the listeners hear it and really take it to heart, and really apply it. Because I mean, that's what we need. That's what our next generations in construction need. We need to keep building. Don't tear stuff down. Build.
Yeah.
100%, man.
Yep. Well, I appreciate it, man.
So anybody wants to get in touch with you, is LinkedIn the best way to get you?
Yeah. LinkedIn. As long as you're not trying to sell me life insurance.
You've been getting them because I've been sending them all your way. Everyone that comes to me.
Oh, yeah, please stop. Get about 100 of those a day. But anybody else, yeah, man, I promise I will help. It doesn't matter who it is. I will help anybody as long as they reach out and if they're curious about it.
Hey, Seth, are you interested in franchising? No, I'm kidding. I get those 100 times a day.
Yeah.
I put Construction Yeti like founder in my thing, and so now I'm like a business owner.
Yeah.
And now I have employee tax or employee retention credits all day, every day. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't have any employees, and so I'm good, man. Thank you. But
yeah. Well, I almost said something to somebody today. She had messaged me. This is about the 4th time she's messaged me in 2 days. And I almost got out of my, I probably shouldn't. I'm glad I didn't say what I was going to say. But then I got to thinking to myself, like, you know what? What was I doing when I was messaging all these people trying to just get a lead, So I was like, you know what? I respect the hustle. But I have financial investors already, so.
And I had one. I don't know. He might be listening to this because I sent him the link to this. But he was a guy, helping people build podcasts.
Yeah.
He says, with your impressive background, you should do a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you knew, and I basically responded back, I was like, if you knew my background, you would see I'm doing a podcast. And then he was like, oh, cool. You have a Spotify link? So I sent it to him, and that was the end of the conversation. But I was like, all right. So. Anyways, so moral of the story: if you're going to message people on LinkedIn, don't just spam them. Make it worth their time.
Right.
But Seth, I appreciate it, man. I think people are going to get a lot of value out of this conversation and your story and just kind of hearing that, if you do put in the work, I mean, you may be going through a hard time at the moment, but if you keep hustling, putting in the hard work and keep grinding, like especially construction industry, it can turn your life around.
Yep.
There's a lot of opportunity out there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like I said, man, you got to kill those giants, man. Those giants are there. You got to go and get them, put them on your resume. So.
I love that part. Anyway, thanks a lot, Seth.
Yeah, no problem, guys. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you. See you guys.
All right.